Hey everyone. Just close your eyes for a second and picture this. You're sitting at the most beautiful rooftop restaurant in the city. The lights of the skyline are twinkling like stars, soft piano music is playing in the background, candles are flickering on every table, and the gentle breeze carries the smell of fresh flowers and expensive wine. You're wearing that deep red dress you spent weeks choosing because tonight is supposed to be special. It's your 10th anniversary. 10 whole years of marriage. You've been smiling all evening, holding your husband's hand under the table, thinking about all the memories you've built together. And then, right after the main course arrives, your husband stands up slowly. He taps his glass with a spoon, clears his throat, and looks straight into your eyes. But the look isn't love anymore. It's something cold. Something final. In a voice loud enough for the entire table to hear, he says, "To my beautiful mistress Sophia, and to the new life we're about to start together." He reaches into his jacket, pulls out a thick envelope, and slides the divorce papers across the white tablecloth like it's nothing more than the dessert menu. The papers stop right in front of you. Your name is already printed there in bold letters. The whole restaurant seems to freeze. Your friends stop chewing. Forks hover in midair. His mother's face turns pale. And his mistress, the woman you thought was just a harmless colleague, sits there with a proud little smile, like she has already won the prize. Your heart doesn't just break. It shatters into 1,000 pieces right there at the table. The pain is so sharp you can barely breathe. Tears start burning behind your eyes. But here's the part that nobody, not even Mark, saw coming. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't throw the wine in his face. Instead, I looked up at him and I smiled. A calm, quiet smile. Because for months I had been preparing for this exact moment. I had been waiting in silence. My name is Elena, and this is the story of how my husband thought he was destroying me in public, and how I quietly, calmly, and completely shut his entire world down without ever raising my voice. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you loved more than anything, stay with me, because by the end of this story you're going to feel every bit of that sweet, silent justice in your bones. Let me take you all the way back to the beginning so you can understand how deeply I once loved this man. Mark and I met during our second year of college. He was that charming business major everyone noticed, tall, confident, with an easy laugh that could light up any room. I was the quiet accounting student who preferred numbers over parties because numbers never lied. We were complete opposites, but somehow it just worked. We studied together late into the night, shared cheap coffee and even cheaper pizza, and slowly fell in love. 10 years ago, we stood in front of 200 friends and family members and promised each other forever. I still remember the way he looked at me that day. His eyes shining, voice cracking a little as he said his vows. He called me his queen. He said I was the only woman he would ever need. That memory used to make me smile every single morning. After the wedding, we built what I thought was a perfect life. We bought a beautiful house in the suburbs with a big backyard where our 2 dogs could run free. We took weekend trips to the mountains, cooked dinner together while laughing at silly jokes, and created hundreds of little inside jokes that only we understood. I took care of all the finances because I was good with money and loved making sure our future was secure. Mark focused on his career, climbing the corporate ladder, chasing promotions, working late nights at the office. I supported him through every single step. I celebrated his successes like they were my own. I was there for him when he was stressed, when he failed a big project, when he needed someone to believe in him. But looking back now, the cracks were there long before I wanted to admit them. Started with small things. He began wearing a new cologne that I had never smelled before. His phone never left his side, even when he went to the bathroom. He started calling me Elena instead of baby. Whenever we had even a small disagreement, I told myself I was overthinking. I told myself that good wives trust their husbands. I told myself that real love means giving the benefit of the doubt. God, I was so wrong. The little signs kept piling up. A lipstick stain on his shirt collar that definitely wasn't my shade. Hotel receipts for business trips he never mentioned. Random late nights that smelled like someone else's perfume when he finally came home. And then one ordinary Tuesday afternoon, I found a second phone hidden deep inside his gym bag. My hands were shaking as I held it. I didn't open it that day. I just placed it back exactly where I found it, and pretended everything was still normal. Because deep down I still wanted to believe we could fix whatever was breaking between us. Over the next few months, that quiet suspicion turned into a heavy, constant ache inside my chest. It felt like I was carrying a stone that got heavier every single day. I started keeping a small notebook, nothing crazy, just dates, times, excuses that didn't match up. I never confronted him. I just watched and listened. And the more I paid attention, the clearer the picture became. Her name was Sophia. She worked in the same department as Mark. She was younger, always dressed flashy, and posted endless Instagram stories with captions like, "Work Bestie Adventures." Mark began mentioning her name way too casually in conversations. Sophia came up with this brilliant idea today. Sophia and I had to grab a quick lunch to discuss the quarterly numbers. Quick lunch. Every single week. Sometimes twice. One Friday night, he came home smelling strongly of her perfume and told me he had a sudden last-minute business trip the next morning. That same night, while he was in the shower, I checked her Instagram story. There she was, same city, same luxury hotel, same beautiful sunset view from the balcony, smiling like she was living her best life. My stomach dropped so hard I had to sit on the floor. I felt sick. I felt stupid. I felt completely invisible. But even then, I didn't explode. I didn't shout or demand answers. I walked into the bathroom, turned on the shower, and cried as quietly as I could so he wouldn't hear me. When the tears finally stopped, I dried my face, looked at myself in the mirror, and made a decision. I wasn't going to fall apart. I was going to protect myself. I quietly started moving small amounts of money into separate accounts he didn't know about. I changed important passwords when he wasn't around. I met a lawyer friend for coffee one afternoon and asked calm questions about what divorce would actually look like in our state. Slowly, I became the calmest version of myself I had ever been. Because I finally understood something powerful. If Mark was going to burn our marriage to the ground, I was going to make damn sure I wasn't the one left standing in the ashes. I planned the anniversary dinner myself. I wanted everything to look perfect on the surface, so that when the mask finally came off, everyone would see the real Mark. I booked the exact rooftop restaurant he had bragged about for months. I personally invited our closest friends, his parents, and even his boss and his wife. I spent hours choosing my deep red dress, the one he once told me made me look like a queen. I did my hair and makeup with care. I smiled the entire drive there. Even though my heart was racing, Mark seemed distracted the whole evening. He kept checking his phone under the table every few minutes, but I acted like I didn't notice. We sat down. Appetizers arrived. Glasses were filled with expensive wine. Laughter floated around the table. Then, right after the main course, Mark stood up. He tapped his glass loudly. The table went quiet. He cleared his throat and began speaking. "Everyone, I have a little announcement to make tonight." He turned and looked directly at Sophia, who was sitting just 2 seats away as if she belonged there, and gave her the biggest, proudest smile I had ever seen on his face. 10 years ago I married Elena. But these last 2 years have taught me what real happiness actually feels like. Sophia, you've given me that joy. So tonight, in front of all of you, I want to raise this glass to new beginnings. He pulled the envelope from inside his jacket and dropped the divorce papers right in front of me. They were already signed by him, dated 3 weeks earlier. The table went completely silent. Someone's fork clattered onto their plate. His mother gasped loudly. One of our friends whispered, "Oh my God." And Mark just stood there smiling like he was the hero in some movie he had written himself. Sophia actually started clapping softly, her eyes shining with victory. I looked down at the papers. Then I looked up at him. Then I slowly scanned every shocked face around the table. My hands were trembling, but not from fear or sadness anymore. They were trembling from pure ice-cold clarity. I stood up slowly, smoothing my red dress. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw anything. I simply smiled, the same soft, warm smile I used to give him every single morning when he woke up. "Thank you, Mark," I said, my voice steady and clear. "Thank you for making this so incredibly easy for me." I picked up the divorce papers, folded them neatly, and placed them inside my purse like they were nothing important. Then I turned to face the entire table. "Since we're doing announcements tonight, I suppose it's only fair that I share one too." I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick, well-organized folder. Inside were months of carefully collected evidence. Printed bank statements showing money being moved to a secret account, copies of text messages I had legally obtained, hotel receipts, Even clear screenshots from that second phone I had finally unlocked months ago. Everything was there in black and white. I started handing out copies, first to his boss, then to his parents, then to every friend sitting at the table. Mark has been secretly siphoning money from our joint business account into a private one he shares with Sophia for the last 14 months. More than $280,000. He also forged my signature on a large loan against our house. And according to the prenup we both signed years ago, the one he apparently forgot I kept a safe copy of, any proven infidelity completely voids his right to half of our assets. The color drained from Mark's face so quickly that he looked like he might faint. Sophia's proud smile vanished instantly. She looked like someone had slapped her. I continued speaking, still calm as ever. The divorce lawyer I have been working with quietly for the last 3 months has already filed everything. The house, both cars, the investments, and the business, they all stay with me. Mark, you're going to need to find a new place to live starting tonight. And you'll probably need a new job too, because I just forwarded all of this evidence to HR this afternoon. His boss was already pulling out his phone, his face tight with anger. Mark finally found his voice. Elena, you can't do this. This isn't fair. I cut him off gently, still smiling. I already did, Mark. And honestly, it feels pretty fair to me. Let me pause here and tell you exactly how I got to that moment, because none of this happened overnight. It took months of quiet, careful planning. After I discovered the second phone, I didn't panic or confront him immediately. Instead, I went to see a therapist, not to save the marriage, but to save my own sanity. I learned how to sit with the rage without letting it control me. Then I met with a financial advisor in secret and a divorce attorney on separate occasions. I started building my case like it was the most important project of my entire life. I began recording every suspicious phone call and conversation on my own phone when it was legal to do so. I made backup copies of every single financial document I could find. I even hired a private investigator for 2 quiet weeks just to get clear, undeniable photos of Mark and Sophia together. Not because I wanted drama, but because I needed rock-solid proof. Every single time Mark came home late smelling like her, I would smile sweetly and ask him about his day. Every time he lied straight to my face, I would add another page to my growing folder. I stopped spending money on little things for us, and quietly redirected it into accounts he had no idea existed. I worked with a specialist lawyer to make sure the prenup was updated and airtight. The plan was never about publicly humiliating him for fun. It was about protecting myself completely so he could never hurt me or our future again. And choosing our anniversary dinner as the moment to reveal everything? That was deliberate. I wanted the truth to come out in front of every single person who had ever believed his lies and smiled at his fake perfect husband act. That night didn't end neatly at the restaurant. Mark tried to follow me to the parking lot, his voice breaking as he begged and cried, saying it was all a terrible mistake and that he still loved me. Sophia stood frozen near the table, finally realizing that her new perfect life had just disappeared in front of 20 witnesses. The next morning his boss called him and said the company was launching a full investigation. His parents told him they were deeply ashamed of his behavior. Our mutual friends started reaching out to me with support instead of him. Within 48 hours the bank had frozen the secret account. The loan he had forged became his responsibility alone. And those divorce papers he had proudly served me? They became completely worthless the moment I proved the infidelity with clear evidence. I stood in the doorway of our house and watched him pack his clothes into boxes like a stranger moving out. He kept repeating the same words through tears. How could you do this to me, Elena? How could you destroy everything? I looked at him one last time. Really looked at the man I had once loved with my whole heart, and answered softly. I didn't destroy anything, Mark. You did. I just made sure I wasn't destroyed along with it. And honestly, I did it better. 6 months later the divorce was finalized quickly and cleanly in my favor. I kept the house that we had built together. I kept our 2 dogs who had always been more loyal to me anyway. I even kept the business and rebranded it under my name only. It felt like breathing fresh air for the first time in years. Mark had to move back in with his parents. Sophia stopped answering his calls the moment she realized there was no more money or luxury lifestyle coming. The last I heard, he was working some entry-level job and still trying to explain to old colleagues and friends why his once perfect life had collapsed so suddenly and completely. As for me, I started traveling to places I had always dreamed of visiting but never did because Mark was too busy. I picked up painting again, something I had given up years ago to support his career. I met new people who saw me as strong, intelligent, and finally free. I laughed more. I slept peacefully through the nights without waking up to check phones or worry about lies. The best feeling? Waking up every morning knowing I no longer had to pretend or shrink myself to keep someone else happy. So here's the truth I want every single person watching this to carry with them tonight. Betrayal cuts deep. It can make you question your worth, your choices, and everything you thought was real. But betrayal does not define who you are. How you choose to respond to it, that's what truly defines you. I could have screamed, cried, begged him to stay, or tried desperately to win him back. Instead, I chose quiet justice. I chose to protect myself when no one else would. I chose my own self-worth over empty revenge fantasies or public drama. And that choice turned out to be the most powerful thing I have ever done. If you are watching this right now and you are going through your own heartbreak, your own betrayal, please hear me clearly. Gather your proof quietly, protect your peace fiercely, and move in silence until you are strong enough to speak your truth. The right people will see your strength and stand by you. The wrong ones will fade away on their own. And one day, I promise you, you will sit at another table, surrounded by people who actually deserve your love and respect. And you will smile, knowing you won the most important battle without ever having to raise your voice. Thank you so much for staying with me through this entire story. It means the world. If this touched something inside you, please drop a comment with the word strength and tell me honestly, what would you have done if you were in my place that night? Like this video if you believe that quiet justice is sometimes the most powerful kind. And subscribe for more real, emotional stories of betrayal turning into beautiful breakthroughs. You've got this. I believe in you. Never let anyone dim your light again. Until next time, stay strong, stay smart, and always choose yourself first.